Good morning, everyone. Namaste. I'm going to call in Archangel Michael to cleanse this space, to clear out all negative and lower vibrations from our mind, body, and soul, home and hearts, placing the white light of protection on us with his blue seal. We are going to be reading more, guys, on The Power of the Now, and that is by Eckhart Tolle, and it is a guide to spiritual enlightenment. So we are still currently learning on the introduction and the origin of this book. And it states, I was awakened by the chirping of a bird outside my window. I had never heard such a sound before. My eyes were still closed and I saw the image of a precious diamond. Yes, if a diamond could make a sound, this is what it would be like. I opened my eyes, and the first light of dawn was filtering through my curtains. Without any thought, I knew that there is infinitely more light than we realize. The soft, luminous, filtering through the curtains was love itself. Tears came across my eyes. I got up and walked over to the room, and I recognized the room, and yet I knew that I had truly never seen it before. Everything was fresh and pristine, as if it had just come into existence. I picked up everything, a pencil, an empty bottle, marveling at the beauty and aliveness of it all. That day I walked around the city in utter amazement at the miracle of life on earth, as if I had just been born into this world. For the next 5 months, I lived in a state of uninterrupted, deep peace and bliss. After that, it diminished in somewhat intensity, or perhaps it just seemed to because it became my natural state. I could still function in the world, although I realized that nothing I had ever did could possibly add anything to what I had already had. So, he has woken up to 5D consciousness. So he is in a higher vibration dimension, if you don't know anything about that. So you still coexist in the same realm, but in a higher dimension. That's why everything is more beautiful and more alive. They said that that's kind of how it goes. One day you're just going to wake up and you're just going to look around, look in the mirror, and things are just going to look differently. Says, I knew, of course, that something profoundly significant had happened to me, but I didn't understand it at all. It wasn't until several years later that I had read spiritual texts and spent time with spiritual teachers that I realized for what everybody was looking for had already happened to me. I understood that the intense pressure of suffering that night must have forced my consciousness to withdraw from its identification with unhappy, deeply fearful self, which is ultimately a fiction of the mind. This withdrawal must have been so complete that false suffering self immediately collapsed just as I had been pulled out of an inflatable toy. What was left was my true nature of the ever-present I am, your God presence, consciousness in its pure state prior to identification from form. Later, I also learned to go into that inner timeless and deathless realm that I had originally perceived as a void and remain fully conscious. I dwelt in a state of such indescribable bliss and sacredness that even original experience I just described pales in comparison. A time came for when I was left with nothing on the physical plane. I had no relationships, no job, no home, no socially identified identity. I spent almost 2 years sitting on park benches in a state of most intense joy. And I believe it, because I could get there, guys. There's often times where I feel like I could just go and live in the woods and be one with Gaia, so we'll read more and learn more about it. But 444 on the timer, and I love you all. Have a blessed day, and namaste. And I love Eckhart Tolle. If you don't know him, he's a sweet, sweet, sweet guy.